Well, summer is in full swing here, and today I wanted to talk to you about red clover because despite being later in the season, the fields are just full of red clover and white clover as well. But red clover is one of my favorites. I like to keep it on hand for when you have littles especially because I like to use it in their tea to help with the cough and the phlegm to loosen that up for their tea. Also, I am no longer a spring chicken. I am well into my middle age 40s. I'm hitting that age where I need a little extra support with the hormone balance and all the things. And red clover is amazing for just that. It helps with menopausal and PMS, helps regulate hormones and all those happy things. I'm filling my basket here while we're sitting and chatting. And then I will dry these for teas and tinctures. I like to do tinctures too. But not only do you want the buds, you can also use the leaves. So I usually pick the whole little rosette, a little bit of leaves, a little bit of bud, take the leaves with it, and I'll dry these out. Now when I get a big stem like so, I'll just take the leaves and the bud, and I usually discard the stem. But like I said, I like to use it mostly for teas and tinctures, which is what I use the majority of. But you can also make a salve out of these. I've seen several other herbalists using them to make salves, and I'm not 100% sure the benefits. I'm sure it's very soothing and healing. I'm sure there's a reason they're doing it. I just haven't personally used it for that. So that is another option. You can add it to salads and cakes for decorations. You can even put the petals in cookies. And I know I've seen recipes for white clover jam or jelly. And I know that white clover and red clover are pretty interchangeable. But for the PMS symptoms and the menopausal symptoms, the red clover is the preferred clover. But imagine if you was to make a cookie with all these pretty little petals in there. That would be quite pretty. And I think the kids would like that too. It'd be fun, again, like a little shortbread cookie. I have a really good recipe for a sourdough shortbread cookie, and I think that would be a fun little addition to add some of those to it. There's red clover lemonade. I know lots of folks who do the red clover and lemonade, and I suppose if I were doing it, I would probably just infuse the red clover for a few hours and then use that water that I've infused the clover in to make the lemonade. And then if I wanted it to be pretty, I would probably throw in a few fresh blooms of the red clover just to spruce it up a little bit. But you would get the infused benefits from the red clover, and then you would get the pretty frilly fancy touch of the blooms. But I may look into the salve more, and I may try making some of the salves and see how it works and what we like to use it on. I can imagine like chapped skin, something like that would be pretty soothing, because it seems to be one of those ones that just kind of go in and soothe things. Coughs, hormones, it just kind of calms and soothes everything down. So I'm thinking that the red clover would benefit in that way as far as skin and stuff, maybe eczema, things like that. But I mostly use it. It is one of the most powerful blood tonics out there. Like, it really is a powerhouse for cleansing the blood and getting just all the gunk out. And then I use it for the kids and their tea for coughing. But it makes your tea really tasty. It's like a sweet, mellow, sweet taste. Just like, well, imagine when you're cutting your hay or cutting your yard, you can smell that sweet smell. That's the clover you're smelling. Generally, mostly, that's the clover you're smelling, that sweet. Everybody recognizes that fresh cut hay smell, especially in the southern areas where the clover grows quite abundantly. You just smell that sweet. That's your clover. So it also gives your teas that same sweet, mellow flavor. So, anyway, I am going to fill my basket, hopefully, before I get interrupted. And I'm going to dry these out, and I'm definitely going to be making me some tincture. I like to do 90 proof vodka is what I use, but you can also use dark alcohol as well. I prefer alcohol to the glycerins because they just pull more of the medicinal properties out, and I even use them for my kids. I do give my kids tincture because I'm not giving them gallons of the stuff or even cups of the stuff. I'm giving them drops. So when they get a tincture made with alcohol, they're getting 3 to 5 drops usually. That's not going to by any means jack up their system or get them drunk or anything like that. So I do use the alcohol tinctures even for my children because it's medicine, we're not using the spirits for anything other than medicine. And that's what I'm teaching my children, my younger children, that the alcohol is for medicine. That's what we use alcohol for in this house. And I almost always have a big jug, like a gallon of vodka sitting around. People probably think I drink a lot of vodka, but I don't. I hate this stuff. I just use it in my tinctures. Oh goodness. But I am going to work on filling this, and then I'm going to completely dry these before I use them for anything, tincture or tea, because as I've stated in previous videos, whenever you're doing your herbal remedies, for your tea you definitely want your herbs to be completely dry so that you can store them long term. For infusing in oils, you definitely want it to be completely dry because the moisture in the plant material can get in there and cause bacteria and mold, and they'll go rancid faster. So you want your stuff completely dry. With your tinctures, it's not as important to have it completely dry because as long as you don't have too much moisture in there, it's not going to dilute your alcohol content too much, and it doesn't matter. But just to be on the safe side, and because I never know for sure what I'm going to do with them, because I usually just store them in glass jars, I always like to completely and thoroughly dry my herbs before I store them or use them for anything. Just that way I have more options really with my dried herbs. And for those of you who don't know, you can order red clover on several websites if it doesn't grow in your area. It runs like $23, $25 a pound, which is how I like to buy all my herbs, by the pound, because I use so much of them, especially for teas. When we do our tea blends, I buy them by the pound. It ends up being cheaper. But if I can harvest them myself, I will, especially if I can get a good clean area. I know this hasn't been sprayed. I know no one around here that close really sprays anything, so I know this is a good clean area. And it's just abundant in this field. I can literally harvest as much as I want of the red clover. So today I'm going to fill this little basket, which this will definitely fill a quart jar, but I already have more. By the time I'm done, I'm going to have a gallon jar full, which is my safe. That's what I like to have, gallon jars full of dried herbs, and then I'll also have my infused oils and my tinctures as well. So I like to have, like, on hand a gallon jar of dried herbs of the ones that I use pretty regularly, and then on top of having my tinctures and my infused oils that I would use for salves. That way I make sure I have enough to hopefully get me through the whole winter when the things aren't growing like they do in the summertime. And it's so hot, it's kind of muggy and hot already, and I'm in the direct sun and I'm burning up. But you know the saying, make hay where the sun shines. So today we pick clover where the sun shines. Anyway, if you have any questions, be sure to drop them and I will try to get back and answer you. And I can't wait to see you in the next video where we talk about some kind of herb. But be blessed and have a beautiful day.